How sweet is that?
We are back at insulating. I've actually been working on it tonight for about 20 minutes so far, and just clear skipped my head that I was supposed to be shooting a video of this before I started, so I'll get you caught up on what I've done so far and where we're hoping to go for the night. First thing I had to do was move this stuff out of the way that was blocking the wall. So you'll see the OSB there is just kind of slid out halfway through into the driveway, just enough to expose the edge of this window frame, which is what I'm working on now. And also out in the driveway you'll see the benchmark table that normally lives right here folded up against the wall, and it's unfolded out in the driveway. And this benchmark table is a new addition since the last time I was working on the wall insulation, and with these slots and the span, it's great at holding the ISO and letting me cut. And yeah, it's rock solid. I'm loving this table. It was a little expensive, and when I first got it, it was bigger than I thought. It doesn't fit in the shop as well as I would like, but second I drag it out in the driveway, it's just fantastic. And on top of the foam, you'll see another new addition since the last time I was out here cutting foam, and that's the Milwaukee 12-volt cordless jigsaw. To this point, I've been cutting all the foam with a Makita 18-volt cordless jigsaw, and that Makita is an absolutely fantastic jigsaw. I love it. I've not used my plug-in jigsaw since I got the Makita. The problem with the Makita is it's a traditional top-handled, jigsaw. The handle's up here, and the weight is all down here in the motor, and I don't have it easily accessible, or I get it. And when you're holding it in this fashion, it wants to pull forward because it's heavy and all the weight's in front of your hand, and it's awkward to use in vertical applications, and it is just heavy. So the foam offers very little resistance, so I figured that for the purposes of cutting the foam, the 12-volt was going to be more than enough. And as you see, the motor is, let me walk inside, the motor is centered over your hand as you're holding it, so it's quite comfortable to hold in this position. Now in this position, it's a little top-heavy, but it doesn't really matter because it's resting on the wood you're cutting, and the weight is centered over the plate at the bottom, so it's very well balanced, I find, this thing. And I have the bigger M12 batteries. I have a lot of M12 accessories, so I happen to have some little batteries, some big batteries. The advantage of the big battery is that it'll stand up, which is quite handy because these Festool foam bits that I use, you see that nice little wavy edge on it, they're long as hell, so you can't really put it down anywhere conveniently. So that's the Makita 12-volt jigsaw. I don't know how useful it will be when I get into actual cutting wood and things that give resistance, but in terms of cutting this foam, it is fantastic. And the garage is the first room of the house that's going to get this foam treatment, so I'm assuming that by the time I get into room 2, it will be more than worth the investment of the tool. And I was able to buy it sans batteries because I have, again, other Makita accessories. So I think it was a little over $100 without the battery. Not too bad, and seems to be a nice tool so far. But back to the wall. What I've done so far is cut this little strip here and that strip there. See, sometimes I pay attention and cut a nice straight edge, and sometimes I don't. But it doesn't really matter because I'm leaving these gaps, and as with everything else, those gaps will get sprayed with expanding foam, sealing it all, making it all airtight and fully insulated. As with the other pieces, I have taken these little pieces and I'm just barely putting screws in. These are the screws I've pulled out from other spots, and I'll just keep reusing them. It's sunk in just enough to hold this in place, and once I spray foam it, once the spray foam cures, I pop these screws out and it'll be held in nice and tight, and then I won't have any fasteners going through it that would create thermal bridging when I put the final OSB on top of it. So that's where we're starting now, in filling around all of these frames that I was working on last time I was on the wall. So frames are done, we're back to insulation. I've continued working on infilling the insulation around this first window, and if you come up here, it's a little hard to see, but there's a gap behind this piece and behind that piece, and what that is the header here is a double 2x6, and it's not quite as thick has a 2x4 on edge, which is the studs over on this first level, and then here's the second level, and this piece is stopped by the studs that run beneath it, which left a gap back here and back here. So before I put the piece of insulation here on the top, I wanted to fill that in, because once this insulation is here, I wouldn't be able to get the foam gun into those corners. So once I had the foam gun broken out, I of course went a little crazy, and I have foamed all the gaps here, the corner, around this piece, and back up again. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I've got the piece of insulation right here. You see the notches on the edge. It's because the frame around the window, you can see it there, and over here it sticks up a little bit. So I'll get this piece of foam. Sorry for those quick movements. I'll get it set here, screwed into the wood temporarily, as with the other pieces. I'll hit spray foam around the whole thing, and then we'll probably call it a night. Here we are, done for the night. I put that last piece in, and I foamed around it. It's a bit of a pain in the ass with the door track here. I can't wait until I can get rid of that door. If you're watching the names of these videos, you'll see that this is Renovation Phase 1. And the elimination of the door and replacement with barn doors is Phase 3, Phase 4. It's phases further than I have thought, so I'm going to have to live with this for a while. But this is one of the impediments of the door track, as it gets in the way. But anyway, that's the top piece temporarily screwed in, foamed around like all the others. So now, working for, I don't know, about an hour and a half tonight. It's been a late night. It's now past 11:30, so we're going to call it a night now. I still need to eat dinner. But such is the life of a part-time woodworker, is you work when you can. So even if it's on the shop. Anyway, that's where we are now. I will continue filling in all these gaps around these other frames that you see. I need to finish putting the bottom piece and the gasketing on this. This was actually the last video, was making this frame and this door. And what you see here is the weather stripping that I'm going to use. If you can see the top. It's just a simple clamshell molding with a piece of plastic covered foam that gets cut in that slot. And the way that'll get installed is just miter joints, and it gets fastened to the inside face of here, so that when I close the door, it stays closed. And I have to still pick up the magnets to keep this thing closed, but I did pick up a handle for it, so that's moving along slowly also. But back to the insulation is I'll fill in all these gaps and keep moving down the wall. And then once the frames have been closed in with insulation, then I'll have the second course of insulation up to that corner, and then we come back here, use this OSB, and start sheathing across the wall. And when it's sheathed, it will be such a happy day, because then I can go in and do my wiring for the plethora of outlets I have all over the place. These wires you see sticking out everywhere are all going to be wires. I got some of the ceiling too. In the middle of the wall, down the bottom of the wall. Because I have been working off of a single, you'll see it there. I've been working off of a single outlet since November, when I took these wires that are under here and shut off all the breakers that go to the room so I could do this wiring. So I can't wait until I get electric in the shop again. That's going to be fantastic. But anyway, I'm now waxing on about the future shop. So we're going to call it a night. That's the first window frame, fully insulated. I'll keep you updated as the shop keeps progressing.